Joining me right now on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline, you can follow him on Twitter at John Schuhman. He is advanced stats writer for NBA.com, covering the NBA Finals. John, how you doing on this Wednesday?
I'm good, Josh. How's it going?
I'm doing well. First of all, it's nice we're actually be able to get back to actual on-the-court stuff instead of a lot of the talk and the riffraff off the court. You know, going into this game tonight, we know that the Cavs are back at home. Do you sense from the Cavs that this will be a much more, shall I say, comfortable team playing in front of a home crowd, considering they've only lost one game at home this postseason?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. They should be better. We were in this sort of situation in the last round where Boston clearly looked like the better team through two games, and then we came to Cleveland and the Cavs evened it up and eventually won in 7. And we've been in this situation before in the finals too with the Warriors. So it's, the Warriors could have a card to play as well as with these next two games, and that's getting Andre Iguodala back. We'll see his status for Game 3 later today, but that could be that the addition of Iguodala could be worth just as much as home court for Cleveland.
It's interesting because Cleveland has struggled at 3. People talk about Steph Curry hitting those 9 threes in Game 2. Well, the whole Cavs team themselves hit 9 threes in Game 2. And Kyle Korver, J.R. Smith, Jordan Clarkson, they're all shooting better at home this postseason than the road. Is the three-pointer a key for the Cavs tonight?
Yeah, but it's not just about them shooting well. It's about what Golden State is letting them do. The Warriors, I think, are trying to sort of stay at home on the Cavs shooters, especially on Korver, unless LeBron James gets into the paint. If LeBron is sort of operating outside the paint, the Warriors aren't going to offer much help to his defender. If he can get ahead of steam and get into the paint, then that Warriors defense collapses, and that's when some of those shooters are open. But that just puts a heavy burden on LeBron to get into the paint as much as he possibly can. He hasn't shot particularly well from the outside, and so him getting into the paint is basically everything for this team, both for his own scoring and for his teammates.
You mentioned Andre Iguodala coming back, looks like for tonight. We know about how well Sean Livingston and JaVale McGee played so far in this series. Can we expect similar production from them on the road, considering that sometimes role players don't perform as well on the road as at home?
Well, the interesting thing, I think, with McGee is that the Cavs are going to target him more on the other end of the floor, try to get him involved more in pick and roll, and see if they can't basically play him off the floor because he can't contain LeBron on those pick and rolls as well. I mean, that was the case last year in Game 4. The one game that the Cavs won, McGee was sort of the source of a lot of Golden State breakdowns defensively, and then in Game 5 he didn't play at all. And so I'll be curious to see the Cavs trying to target him defensively, and then if he becomes a liability on that end of the floor, then he won't be, he just won't be able to play. Obviously, Iguodala coming back would allow them to play Draymond Green more at center. They've barely done that in this series. Only like less than 10 minutes so far they've played Green at center. And so Iguodala gives them sort of more versatility to do that. And Livingston's perfect. I guess he can't get any better than he can't shoot any better than he has so far in this series. So. But he's a vet, I don't expect him to be fazed by the environment at all.
John Schuhman of NBA.com joining us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline here on 97.3 ESPN. Cavs versus Warriors, Game 3 tonight. At this Warriors team overall, I think some people are trying to write the story on them before it's fully written. And one of the things about this series has been Steph Curry's making a case that this series is possibly his NBA Finals MVP year. In the past, the first time around was Iguodala. Last year it was Durant. Steph Curry is having a great series. It's not just three-point shooting. Yeah, he's shooting 50% from three, but he is getting a lot of assists, John, and off of plays that, I think some people maybe take for granted his playmaking ability.
Yeah, I think, the one great thing about the Warriors is not that only that they shoot so well from the outside, but that they leverage their perimeter shooting to get better shots, and that's layups and dunks. And Curry does that himself, where, if he's dancing outside the 3-point line and you go to overplay him, afraid that he's going to, step back and shoot a three, he'll get to the rim himself and get layups himself. And he's become a much better finisher at the rim later in his career than he was early. But the other thing is, the fact that, if you put too much attention to him, he's going to find his teammates. And we saw it in game 2 where the Warriors were slipping some screens because the Cavs were too anxious to switch. And, the Cavs they don't have a good defense, right? And so the Warriors can take advantage of that. And the way they take advantage of that is with some open threes, but also just getting to the basket for a lot of layups. And so Curry has been able to take advantage of some defensive miscues to find his teammates under the basket.
Steph Curry, he's obviously been an evolution for him from when he came into the league. He had some injury issues, and then he explodes and now become a 2-time league MVP. What has been most impressive in your eyes about the evolution of Steph Curry from when he came into the NBA to now?
Like I said, I think it's him leveraging his he came in as a great shooter, and if you look at his 3-point percentage over his career, it hasn't changed that much. What has changed is his willingness and his ability to get to the basket and then to finish at the basket. He's really improved as a shooter, like in the paint versus from his rookie year to now, to the last few years. And so, and everybody thinks of Kyrie Irving as being this great finisher as a guard, but Curry has shot better than Irving in the paint over the last several years. So I think it's what's the word I'm looking for? And a part of his game that people don't really don't sort of take for granted is his ability, like I said, to sort of leverage his shooting to get to the paint, to get better shots, get into the paint and finish. And I think that's the one thing that has impressed me over the last few years.
Getting back to the Cavs defense, I've been asking this question. I don't know if there's really an answer per se for it. I'd like to have you weigh on this. Is the issues with the Cavs defense, is that a personnel issue? Is that like a roster issue? Or is that a coaching issue?
Well, I think it's probably both. I think primarily it's a personnel issue. I think, and it starts on the other end of the floor because, like, LeBron James has the ability to be the best defender in the league, given his size and his quickness and his speed, but also his mental acumen, his IQ, and his instincts. I mean, this guy can erase mistakes. But because of the offensive load that he's had to carry all year, he hasn't been able to be the defender that he can. And then, yes, they have other bad defenders. Kevin Love trying to contain pick and rolls is not great. J.R. Smith and Jeff Green, we've seen them get confused on switches. But, they ranked 29th defensively this year. And I think part of that is, I don't think Ty Lue necessarily held guys accountable for bad defense. I think to rank 29th and to have that be accepted and say, hey, we'll just get to the playoffs and then we'll go from there, I think is not great, because those habits that have been built over 82 games, we've seen it come back to haunt this team quite often, especially against a Warriors team that is so good offensively and knows how to take advantage of the mistakes.
Jeff Van Gundy said at the end of the Cavs-Celtics Game 7 that Tyronn Lue doesn't get enough credit as a coach. And we know about Ty's issues, off the court with, not being able to sleep and the anxiety issues and everything he went through. But is Ty Lue really a really good coach, or is he just a byproduct of having to be the coach on a team with LeBron James?
I think almost every coach in this league has some good things, some good qualities, and some things that they're not so great at. You know, there are so many things that a coach has to be really, really good at for you to think of them as a great coach, just as far as offensive schemes, defensive schemes, in-game adjustments, lineup management, just player personality management, dealing with the front office, dealing with the media, all this stuff, and all of them have qualities that they're good at and qualities that they're not so great at. It's hard to find a perfect coach in this league, that just does all those things really well. And so I think Ty Lue does some things really well. He knows how to, he's done some really good things with their offense. Their offense has been terrific. Like I said, I don't think he's held them accountable enough defensively. I think he manages his players pretty well. I think they enjoy playing for him. I don't think there is a perfect coach in this league. Maybe Greg Popovich is the closest thing. But he's made his mistakes over the years. And so, you sort of take the good with the bad. I think he's done a solid job with this team. He won a championship, helped got his team to come back from 3-1 against maybe the best team we've ever seen. Until Kevin Durant joined them. And so I think, like I said, there's some very good things about the job that he's done. There's some things that you could take issue with.
Looking at the way this series has gone, I kind of have to wonder, everyone keeps talking about, what the future may hold for LeBron James, but I kind of have to wonder, what does the future hold for the Cavs organization in general? Whether LeBron stays or goes, you were talking about that could have a major impact, not just on the roster short term, but long term. I think sometimes we all focus so much on LeBron, what he's going to do, but whatever LeBron does do, that's going to have an impact on the entire organization, the rest of that team.
Absolutely, and they're fortunate that they do have a top 10 pick this year, so that the cupboard won't be completely bare as far as assets are concerned if LeBron were to leave. So we'll see. I mean, obviously if he leaves, that obviously affects, Kevin Love and some of the other veterans on this team. With the trades they made at the trade deadline, they took on some contracts that go beyond this year, some big contracts that go beyond this year. And so they will have some salary issues going forward. It's not like, LeBron leaves and they can just start from scratch with tons of cap space. That's absolutely not the case. So they'll be in a tough position for the next couple of years for sure.
What's going to be the biggest key in this game tonight for the Cavs to win Game 3 and not end up in a 3-0 hole?
It's a great question. I think they got to get going offensively. I don't think their defense is ever going to be good against this Golden State team. They're just going to have to outscore them. We saw it last year, in Game 4, the one game they won, they hit 24 threes. They need to get, find ways to get LeBron in the paint. And that can open up things for other guys. And, obviously the first quarter is important. If Golden State hangs around, they can wear this team down, especially, when LeBron is asked to carry such a huge burden offensively.
John, one more before I let you go, and I always appreciate your time here on a Wednesday on 97.3 ESPN. One of the underreported stories was what Kevin Durant did recently when he surprised a bunch of students paying their tuition for first year of college. And I think so many times, this is kind of like a pet peeve of mine, we don't always look at the good that athletes do. We always over-report the bad stuff. We know more about what Vontaze Burfict has done in the NFL on and off the field than we do about the good things that other athletes do. Do you think people really know and understand all the good things that athletes and teams do off the field? Do you think that is as underreported as I do?
Probably. And I'm sure they do a lot of stuff that they don't promote themselves. I don't necessarily think that, Durant asked ESPN to do this story on him, paying for kids' tuition. We know LeBron does the same thing on a huge scale as far as sending kids to college. it's amazing. They have the disposable income, and a lot of them do a lot of good with it. And it's one of the things I like about covering this league. You can feel a little bit of pride in the way that this league as a whole, the leagues, the teams, and the players all sort of give back to their communities and try to make their communities a better place.
John Schuhman, advanced stats writer for NBA.com. Glad to have him today on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. John, enjoy the game tonight, and we'll catch you soon.
Thanks, Josh. Anytime.